Hey everyone, welcome to Old Fashioned Catholics. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Nick, and we are Catholics who drink old fashions. We always film really late at night. It's 11 p.m. for us. It is midnight for our guests. We do this because this is when people in their vocation actually get time to chill out like this. Yep, we're glad you could join us tonight.
We find that our show is best enjoyed with a beverage in hand, either alcoholic or non. It doesn't matter to us, but we'll give you a chance to pause it now. We'll put up on the screen what we are drinking as well as what our guest is drinking. You can follow it or you do your own thing.
Welcome back.
All right, so now we can introduce the mystery man.
Yeah. Okay. So a little background. A few months ago, weeks ago, we had a guest on, Troy King he was the pirate dentist, and we had him on. And after talking to him at one point, he texted me, he said, "Hey, you have to have Dan Boyd on." And I said, "Okay, who's Dan Boyd?" And he said, "You just should have him on." And I was like, "Well, yeah, but who is he?" And Troy was really sketchy about him. He would give no background whatsoever. So we don't know how this is going to go. This could get banned. We have no idea who this man is.
That intrigued us. The
But it
fact that he
intrigued
wouldn't
us.
tell us anything about him said, we got to have this guy on because
Yeah.
now my interest is piqued.
He did say he wrote a book, so you should have him on. So that we will definitely bring up. But we've never gone into an interview not knowing anything about a person. But we would like to welcome to the show Dan Boyd.
Hey guys,
Hey,
thanks for welcoming me here. That's pretty cool.
Dan Boyd in high definition.
There we go. You know what? Can I change my my name there to not be the
Yeah, your diocesan email. Now everybody knows how to reach out to you with complaints.
You can just screenshot it. If you actually with any of our episodes ever, if you dislike any part of it, just that email address that was on the bottom of his screen, just send that off to him. That'd be great.
There we go. Okay.
There we go.
Are you guys able to like put a mask over that later or something? Or,
I think Jesse couldn't he?
Yeah, we will. We will cover
awesome.
that.
Thanks.
And also, I guess you'll have to morph me reading it out loud. Why don't we just start over? Do you want to start over?
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't that be easier for Jesse?
No, I'm not starting over.
Okay, we'll just
I'm not
keep going.
saying that crap again.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So Dan, the show kind of goes wherever it goes. We don't have any set topic or anything, but we always ask our guests two questions. And the first one is we'll cover it for all of us, but we'll start with you. So what are you drinking right now?
I am drinking an old fashioned, and
Okay.
it is made with St. Augustine Distillery bourbon. And they sell in their shop right outside the distillery. They sell an old fashioned mix, which they make with Florida cane sugar and some really great spices. And then I've got some, I would say like above average cherries in there. Like I'll take even like the ice cream cherries in my old fashioned if I have to. And then an orange peel. So it's pretty darn good.
Awesome.
How about you guys?
Excellent.
Yeah, it's awesome. What do you got, Kevin?
Excellent. I am drinking what I have dubbed my Northwoods Old Fashioned. It is bourbon. It is a bunch of dashes of Lee's Brothers bitters, which has a cinnamon flavor. It has a splash of water. It has 4 Morello cherries, 2 of them muddled, and ice, and that is that.
I have top shelf Evan Williams this evening.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, 1 orange peel. I didn't have any sugar cubes, so just 1 ounce of homemade simple syrup, 1 cherry, and then a cube. Oh no! And you know what?
This. Go ahead.
I did 2 dashes of bitters. I'm just trying to rein it in. I was going nuts with the bitters, so I was doing 6, 7 dashes of bitters because I like them, and so I'm holding off. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm back on
When
the.
you
wagon.
realize your bitters bottle was running out too fast.
Bitter.
Or your wife wasn't kissing you anymore.
Yeah, well,
right.
probably both of those, if we're going to be honest. Just
yeah.
we're not
Oh,
gonna-
that explains a lot.
Kevin,
Doesn't
I
it,
thought
though?
you were about to go into a Dr. Seuss rhyme there. With like,
I
you
have-
realize your
I've
bitter
been
bottle
known-
battle is
Yeah.
a peanut butter.
I've been known to do that in the past.
All right,
But I forgot to say, Dan, what makes my old fashioned Northwoods is that my sweetener is maple syrup. That's
Oh, that's
the
legit.
ingredient.
So,
yeah.
So where's it from though?
It's pure maple syrup from Minnesota.
Oh, there we
just at the
go.
grocery store. Yep.
So I have I was born in Minnesota, and
What?
spent the first few years of my life there. And I remember boiling down maple sap with my dad to make maple syrup.
Wow. So you
That-
guys lived on some land and tapped
Um,
maple trees or something.
My dad like is and was resourceful, and so we lived in the city, and he tapped maple trees,
That's awesome.
and that was just the way that was the way my dad
Yes.
was and is.
He would sneak out to other people's property in the night and tap the trees and drain the stuff.
Yeah.
Come back.
He's
all
like, there are
tired
all
and-
these unused maple trees down the boulevard. Someone's
All-
got to use them.
They're all around Lake Calhoun, so I just tap
Perfectly
them.
good trees.
So when we moved to Florida, I think he intentionally bought an orange grove so that he could
Nice.
he wasn't losing out on the value of the land. He went from having like maple sweetener to orange sweetener.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So when did you move
But
to
we need to
Florida?
have
then?
Dad's dad on.
decades ago. Yeah. No, he's pretty cool. So we moved to Florida in 1991.
Okay.
Yeah, which
That's
is
cool.
at the time Florida was I mean way less populated than it is now. I mean the like large swaths of Orlando, which I mean everybody's known about Disney for a long time, but even in 91, huge portions of Orlando within just like 25-30 minutes of Disney were cow pastures and orange groves, and that's not really the case anymore.
So it was like the Wild West.
It was. Yeah, we moved.
How old were
from-
you when you moved?
I was a wee guy. I was only 5 years old.
Okay.
5 years old.
Yeah.
Do you
I
ever come back to
rem-
Minnesota? Do you have any ties to Minnesota now? Or
So I haven't been back in a long. Actually, no, I take that back. I was back a few years ago. When my grandfather got older, he moved into an assisted living facility, and my aunt and her family live there still. And I want to say they live in, I couldn't remember it. Eden Prairie. They live in Eden Prairie, and so I went up and visited my family in Eden Prairie when my grandfather passed away, or rather, shortly before he passed away. But that was the first time in decades that I'd been there. But we still have family there. Usually they come down to visit Florida.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
better
the way it
that way.
goes. So, yeah.
yeah, Kevin just got back from Florida. And what was
did.
your thought upon returning to Minnesota, Kevin?
I literally thought, why do I live here? I left the sunshine and the
Yeah.
warmth. We got delayed a day because of the huge storms that ripped through Alabama and a bunch of states right on our path, but then got back and went, man, it is 40 and raining. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
And that was the thought.
Yeah, we lived in Florida for a year and a half. We lived north of Orlando in Bushnell. Do you know Bushnell?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we lived in Bushnell. My father-in-law was a pastor at a church there for a while, and we before we moved to China, we lived there for a year and a half, and every day was wonderful. It was great riding your motorcycle to work, and it's a cool morning, but not a Minnesota cool morning. It was just a nice cool morning.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When you say
So-
cool morning, like a Florida cool morning could be 70.
Yeah, it's like with a little
Yep.
bit of moisture, and yeah, I loved it. It was great. Okay, so you're in what part of the state? Where do you live?
Orlando.
In Orlando, and you work with the diocese there. Is that right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you do down there?
So my title is Secretary for Laity, Family, and Life, and I get to help the bishop assist every single parish with handing on the faith from womb to tomb. So if it has to do with catechesis, evangelization, youth ministry, faith formation, marriage prep, campus ministry, I'm all over it, and I try to help every parish embrace the church's mission, which is we exist to evangelize, plain and simple. And if we're not doing that, then we're ignoring what Jesus asked us to do.
That's awesome.
Boom.
So,
boom.
so we will only cover. Oh, we still have one question to ask. Oh, but first, so you did write a book? Yes, no.
I did, yeah. Yeah.
What did you book? What book? What'd you write?
Can I show you?
It's around
Yeah.
here somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm
give me
using
a
it as a
second.
coaster.
Right. I bought a bunch of them online. So Amazon sells it to me for really cheap.
That's awesome.
I should point out, we just published, we self-published. And so people are like, wow, you're published. That's amazing. It's like, yeah, anybody can do it.
Yeah,
They're like,
right.
No, that's not true. I'm like, yes, literally anybody can do it. Amazon will happily sell your book
Publish
for
your
you
book.
and take a bunch of the cut.
Yeah.
But a buddy of mine, so it's called Go Make Disciples by Justin Reyes and Dan Boyd. And Justin is a friend of mine who worked here in Orlando for a little while. And we overlapped my role in the chancery and his role in a nearby parish for a couple months before he moved out to Texas to take a diocesan leadership role out there. And when he moved, we kept up our friendship. And before going back to work for the church, he picked up an MBA and was working in consulting. And we would just touch base every once in a while to talk about the way we were approaching ministry, because we both had, let's say, a missional focus to what we were doing, and we were both kind of results oriented. We're pretty competitive, and we want to see things happen, and we're not happy until we see that. And he said, "Hey, do you want to write a book? Here's what I'm thinking about writing it on." And essentially, he takes a lot of the best practices from business in terms of customer experience and marketing and thinking, like putting yourself in the mind of the people you're trying to reach, which would be, so we came up with some fun frameworks or images to really help people focus on the big picture. And so some of those would be what we call the flock experience, or rather than customer experience, think flock experience. If we're called to go after the people who are lost, like the lost members of the flock, we have to think like them and understand what's going to attract them, what's going to help us enter into a relationship with them and be real friends with them, so that they're ready and willing to hear the gospel. And then always thinking about, like, that kind of thinking with the end in mind. Like, if we're hosting an event, we bring in some speaker. Why? Like, what are we supposed to gain out of that we can then help people come closer to the Lord and enter into a real relationship with him? I think we in the church, a lot of times we have the silver bullet mentality, where we say, well, if we just bring in these great speakers from Minnesota, then all of our problems will be solved and everybody's going to fall in love with the Lord and fill the coffers. But we know that's not the reality. And speakers have a place in the, like, kind of the whole schema of bringing people closer to the Lord. But oftentimes that's going to be like the big mountaintop event. And so this book was written for people who love the Lord and love working in the church and want to serve, but perhaps don't always have the best tools to have a really, really fruitful ministry. So we wrote the book that we wished we had when we were 25.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that whole idea, because in my experience, Dan, and probably in yours and Justin's, the impetus for the book is that many parishes and probably dioceses as well seem to be run like bad businesses. It's like the world of nonprofits. It's just like they're running like a floundering business at a diocese level, at a parish level, and it's just kind of the status quo. And what you just said, now, a couple weeks ago, I went on this rant about bad preaching from the pulpit, and what you just said is like what I want for preaching. It's what I want for deacons and priests to be preaching from the pulpit, where if you have lost sheep and you want them to come to Christ, then you have to think where they're at, and you have to speak to where they're at. That was awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Hey,
I like what you're saying about how, like, it's so funny. Like, a speaker has such a small place in, like, it's such a small bit in, like, the scheme of things. And I always try to say that, like, even as a speaker, like, I'll come in, but you can't put a bunch of weight on what I'm going to do, because it's very, you can be a really good speaker, but it's very rare that everybody leaves just like changed in their life, their whole course correction. And like, that comes from daily life and people in their life, and those influences, not just from somebody saying something well. So that's cool. That's awesome.
So, I mean, who's this book for? Is it a manual? Is that kind of its style? What's its style?
So I'll answer that first question. Who's it for? We came up with 3 personas, the 3 people that we really wrote the book for, and we called them Careful Karen, Eager Emily, and Tenacious Ty. And the idea with Careful Karen, that's your kind of like your typical parish DRE who's been doing the work for 30 years or 20 years and knows that there needs to be change, but is a little hesitant to do anything different because it's hard and it's scary. And you've got all your catechists and they love the way they're doing things. They love teaching 2nd grade and they just think the kids are so cute. But it's pretty clear, the writing's on the wall, that what we're doing is not effective. And it's like, I say this carefully and cautiously. There's some really great research, like Christian Smith out of Notre Dame did a long-term study on what is the highest or rather what is the most impactful thing on whether or not somebody continues to practice any faith into adulthood, especially Catholicism. And it's the way the parents share and live the faith with their kids. Yeah. And everything else after that is basically a coin toss. And so if that's the case, we ought to be putting all of our resources first into parents and then helping with everything else after that. Because if mom and dad, or mom or dad, aren't able to get the job done, then everything else we do after that is very, very unlikely to have any effect. And so you have people who are very invested, like Careful Karen, in the old system that they've been working with for a long time, and we need to get them to be willing to change. And that's so this book is to help them realize you can no longer do low impact forms of evangelization. You have to prioritize high impact. And then the next one, Eager Emily, that's your typical like 22-year-old grad who wants to go into youth ministry but has no experience. So they have all the energy and enthusiasm, but they're not sure what to do. So we try to lay out, really walk them through planning a ministry. So it's almost a workbook where we say, okay, if you're just starting, here's what you need to do. So first, like, why does your ministry exist? What are you trying to do? Who are you trying to reach? I mean, there's some typical marketing stuff in there, the who, what, when, where, why, and coming up with a vision for your organization or a charter, and then picking teammates, people to work with you, kind of like planning every step along the way. We call that the discipleship funnel, recognizing you're going to start with some large events that attract a large number of people. You're going to be able to mature a number of relationships from there, and then as those relationships grow and you become authentic friends with people, then you'll be able to invite them into a deeper relationship, really hopefully discipleship later on. And the idea is you continue doing that, recognizing you're going to fail and learn along the way, and you just fail forward and keep giving it a better try as you go. And then the last one is Tenacious Tie. And that's probably guys like you, or guys who don't work for the church, people who don't work for the church, but they're passionate Catholics who know that they want to give their life to the Lord. They're still working in the world, sanctifying the secular, which is what we're all called to do. And they want to find a way to evangelize. So it can help them. So whether people work in the church or not, it can help them understand how they can order their life to build a successful and fruitful ministry.
So what lit your fire, Dan? What point did you say, I'm all in for God, I'm all in for the church? Obviously, you're well read, you're passionate about the church, you're dynamic, but where did that kind of launch from?
So it was March of 2001 at what was that called? It was called I think it was a Youth 2000 Eucharistic Centered Retreat in Owensboro, Kentucky. And I remember the friends who invited me to that. And it was Saturday night at the Eucharistic procession. And I understood at that time that Jesus was a person who was calling me to a relationship with him. And he wasn't just an idea, and he wasn't just a historical fact. And I'll never be able to deny that happened, that I encountered the Lord there and have encountered him many times since. And
is that the Youth 2000 with the Franciscan Friars?
Yes, it was.
Was Father Terry there? Like,
Father Terry was at a later one that I went to.
Okay.
Father Glenn was the one I remember.
Okay. I'm just laughing because, like, before I was even Catholic, I went to a Youth 2000 in Brainerd, Minnesota. It was Catholic youth minister, but I wasn't Catholic yet. But and he was there, and like I was with him last weekend at this thing in Evansville. He still goes all over the place doing them. They don't call him that as much Youth 2000 anymore, but he's still the same guy, like with the beard and like I don't know if you know his, like, the corniest jokes, and he won't stop with them. It's so embarrassing.
Jokes are the best, man.
It's just crazy. Like, he owns it. He's awesome. But I just didn't know if he was at that one. The second question that we always ask. So now that we know a little bit about Dan, and we know that he has a job in the diocese and he's reaching out for Christ and he's building the kingdom. Today, then, right now at 12:15 a.m. your time, truthfully, honestly, without any reservation, how was your day today?
My day was very good today. And I look forward on Wednesdays to a couple of things in particular. So my wife is a mental health counselor, and she works pretty late into the evening on Wednesdays. And so we have one little girl. She's 3.5 years old, and she's the apple of my eye, and I love her so much. And it's such a gift to be a dad. Troy as you know, Troy's got 16 children, and he and I are good friends. And he asked me one day, he said, Dan, what's the hardest part about being a dad? And I said, nothing. And I really meant it, because before I had kid, I would stay up real late watching Netflix and doing stupid stuff. Now, if I'm up late, it's for the best possible reason. It's either drinking old fashions with cool guys like you, or it's taking care of my little girl. And I'll take both of those things. And so Wednesday nights, my one of the grandmas watches my little girl, and then after work, I'll go pick her up, and we go get pizza together. And it's just such a joy. I look forward to it so much. And work was good, but I mean, that's way better. And so just picking her up, getting pizza, having a good time, and then waiting for my wife to come home, have a good time, chatting and catching up with her, about hearing about her day, and then just hanging out, waiting to chill with you guys. So how about both of you?
Well, for people listening, so we were supposed to film Monday night, but Kevin, they were coming home from Florida and got stopped by a storm. They had to wait an extra day, and family obligations kept him from having us film on Monday. And then tonight, my wife, who's a doctor, she had patient notes and was behind and was going to work on those, but then keeled over and fell asleep with all the kids, and I had a baby on my chest, and we had to delay the filming for that. And so just one of the coolest things has been how like family has played into every time we try to film one of these things. And even when we've had to cancel, it's always been because one of our wives has said, no, you're not filming tonight. We need you here. And there's an aspect of that has always played in. So that's been kind of fun. It's kind of a running thing that you obviously can't get away from because they're just in the other room. So yeah, that's cool.
How was your day today, Nick?
Today was really great. Yeah, today was great. Actually, my wife had the day off for the first time in a long time. She's been working her days off because her patient volume has been so low. She's been working her days off in a different town 2 hours away. And that has been, we'll all get up and drive her there at 5 a.m. and she'll make it to work. And then we hang out for the day and whatnot. So it was a normal day. She had a day off. She did patient notes, and it was sunny. It was 61, and we just kept saying, like, is it summer? Is it summer? It's 61. We were all out on the grass, just like Hudson had his shirt off. And so, yeah, it was good. Kevin, how was yours?
My day, like most days, it was up and down. There were some highs and lows, and I work in a career where there is elation and amazing accomplishment and really stark and tangible rejection, and those can happen within minutes of each other. And one of the highlights of my day, though, was there's a Catholic guy on YouTube. His name's Dr. David Gray, and we interviewed him a while ago, and I got to be on his radio show today. He has a show on Guadalupe Radio, and it broadcasts all over the South. And it was really great because he's just an awesome guy. He's a convert, and he's on fire. And his show is called like the Voicing Truth and Reason. And so he's just got a really cool show, and that was kind of the highlight of my day. But it hasn't been sunny. There hasn't been sun here, and I don't know how long. The sun finally came out. So I got home, and the sun was out. I made dinner. I grilled burgers because it was sunny and above 50 degrees. And then we played soccer in the front yard after dinner, and it was just magical. Like it was magical. There was that.
So Dan, at one point this winter, like on our patio, so it's regularly 20 below where we live, just often. We actually had was it a 12-day period where it didn't break zero this winter? And at one point I was like delinquent in my obligations as a homeowner, and I just left our grill out all winter. So it was just uncovered, just in the snow and in the freezing. And we grilled in the middle of the winter out there, just bundled up and got the grill, because the fire is the fire, no matter what, you can grill. And we did a full-on Minnesota grill at some point. But there was something I was going to ask Dan. I can't. Kevin, do you have the next lead in? I can't remember what I was going to ask Dan.
Well, I wanted to ask Dan, I don't know if you want to share, or we can move to another question. I wanted to ask how you met your wife, because that's interesting to me, because we're all husbands with wives and kids. And
I love talking about this. So my wife and I were both students at the University of Central Florida, and both involved in Catholic campus ministry there. And I was altar serving at Mass, and I had cornrows. And
no, you did not.
Stop. None of the rest of the story even matters. No one cares about how you met your wife.
Dan, we are friends. We are
So-
instantly friends.
So your next book has to be titled "I was altar serving and I had cornrows."
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's in the works.
Yeah.
From Tan
Orange
picked that up.
cornrows.
Yes, that makes it even better.
Ginger rose. Ginger rose.
Ginger
It's
rose.
like a ginger
Yeah.
corn. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, go.
So naturally, she was just like drawn to me, and she couldn't not talk to me after mass.
Yeah.
Translation:
that-
she was appalled by his disgusting cornrows.
And so she came up to me and she's like, "I've never seen a redhead with cornrows before." And we kind of knew each other because my older brother was president of the campus ministry, and so she'd been over to my house. My parents lived near campus, and so we were that place where everybody always went for Halloween parties and Christmas parties and other things like that. So we knew of
Nice.
each other, but that was really the first time we got to talk. And then probably fast forward a few months, this was really funny. The campus minister at the time was a good friend of ours. He's a priest now, but he wanted the two of us to be the MCs on our semester retreat, where we go for a weekend and to Eucharistic Center retreat. But he was worried if he invited me to be the MC with another young lady, that the two of us would fall in love and start dating. And he was worried because he knew I was interested in the priesthood. And so he said, "Well, I won't put Dan with so-and-so. I'll put him with Regina instead." Well, I like,
It's awesome.
I just fell in love with Regina because leading up to the retreat for like 6 weeks, we would meet up a couple times a week. We'd go to mass, we'd pray the rosary, and then we'd look at the retreat talks and themes and the questions and discuss them. Because our job as the MC was to really connect the talks to, like you've all probably seen this before. You plan a retreat, your speaker comes in and talks about everything but what you wanted them to talk about. And so our job as the MC was to try to connect the dots as much as possible. And so that was how we met and fell in love. It was in college, and then we got married shortly after graduation. We were married for 8 years without children, and then God answered our prayers, and I don't want to like make light of that and say, well, God's not answering other people's prayers if he doesn't give them children. But after 8 years of no children, we welcomed our sweet little girl into our family, and so that was about 3.5 years ago.
What's her name?
Her name is Kiara Immaculate, and so.
Oh, nice.
If you ask my wife who she's named after, she will say Chiara, Blessed Chiara Badano, who's a relatively recent blessed. If you ask me, she's named after Chiara of Assisi, who that's like Pope or St. Francis's bestie from way back in the day. Her Italian name was Chiara.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
That's so cool. I mean, it's a beautiful story. It's still overshadowed by the cornrows. I think if you have a picture, that'd be great. Of the, I don't know actually.
I'm not letting that get on the internet.
No,
guys.
okay, all right. That's your prerogative. That's your prerogative. That's awesome. That's amazing. So
I feel you, but it's also like, So here's a like a legitimate concern, like with, like somebody could see that and be like, look at this guy who is like appropriating culture, and now like let's burn him at the stake.
Well, so on our honeymoon, we got married in 2001, and we went to this place in Mexico, south of Cancun, 40 miles. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, we're down there, and I'm a goofball, and so my wife got awesome braids on the beach by somebody on the resort that we were at, and I was just like, "Can I?" And my wife was like, "Sure." And so then I did as well. And it was horrible. I look back as well. I'm just glad that back then there were no digital cameras, because
Oh yeah.
I didn't even think about appropriation. I was just like, I should have never done this. It was a horrible decision. One of the first decisions in our married life. And it was bad. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got to get all the bad decisions out early.
Right
Like,
away.
I'm sure it's probably been like 10 years since you've made one.
Yeah. Oh, easy. Kevin knows. Kevin writes them down. He knows all my bad decisions.
Yeah, I do write them down. And I too made the cornrow mistake in college.
Did you really?
Wow.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Did you, Kevin?
I have
Yeah.
never been on a YouTube show with two other guys who have had cornrows before. Granted, I've
Yeah.
never been on a YouTube show.
Yeah,
before.
I've only been on the one we made. I've never been
Right,
on a
right.
YouTube.
I'm sure there's something. It's just like, I want to try this once. I want to know what it's like. And
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah.
cry the whole time they're getting put in. My head is so tender. I'm tender headed.
You are.
fellas. And
Yeah.
I was just in pain. So I ate jicama while I was
What?
getting my cornrows.
You
and
ate
jicama.
what?
Jicama. It's a root like a potato, and I
Yeah.
ate it.
You did eat? Are you
Why?
making this
Why
up?
did you have this? Like,
Yeah.
why did you have jicama root with
Who
you?
had jicama?
I
Was
don't know. I
the-
just had it in a bag. It was cut up, and I ate it.
the person giving the braids was like, "Here, you should probably eat jicama while we're
Suppose.
doing this."
No,
So I
just ate it. Go ahead, Dan.
I had a good relationship with my, I guess you could say, my braider. And like I got it done probably 8 or 10 times. And I eventually I just kind of turned her loose. I was like, you do whatever you want. Cause she was actually using it for a portfolio. So she could either get into cosmetology school or get jobs after cosmetology school.
Sure.
And so
They
one
always
day
got an
she-
angle.
They do, yeah. One day, although I will say she charged less than my barber charges now. And one day she did something that I think she called it fish bones. And so if you imagine like the skeleton of a fish with a big spine and then lots of little rib bones. So there was lots of little tiny braids like ribs going into this main spine. And she did 3 of those. And I thought I was gonna die. I couldn't sleep because my laying down hurt. Like I would have had to sleep on my face.
It's like getting your braces tightened.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, on your whole head. That's it. That's the best analogy I've ever heard, Kevin.
Yeah, my daughter, our kids are our oldest 3 kids are from the Caribbean. We adopted them when we were living down there. And our daughter Esther, she regularly, every couple of months, she'll get her hair done. And they do cornrows, and then the braids now. It's insane. They're amazing. They just crochet under the cornrow, and so like you just use a little hook, and these braids come in. They're machine washable. You take them out, and you can just put them in again, and
Wow.
all different stuff. But she's the same way. Like after the night that she sits for 4 or 5 hours and gets the cornrows in, it's the same for her. Like just to put your head down hurts. I've just never heard it from a grown man. So that's
Well,
that's awesome.
thanks, Nick.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's
Hey,
good to
Can you tell us about the Boss crucifix you have right behind you?
Yeah, I was trying
Oh,
to see that one.
Yeah, you bet. So first, I want to say I'm a part of the adoption club too, and I love adoption. I think it's so cool. Our little girl is she came to us through adoption. So
Nice. Pretty good.
this guy is it was given to me by an old priest that I was friends with. And you ever know those people like old men who are delightfully cranky?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
This
Oh,
was
yeah.
this priest all the way. And he took a liking to my younger brother and I. He taught my brother Latin, and then he wanted somebody to play racquetball with. And so we would play racquetball with him. My dad would play racquetball with him, and then he'd take us to breakfast. We'd go watch movies, and he always thought he was dying. And so every time we went to visit him, he would say, "Oh, I have something to give you. I'm going to die soon." And so this is an old altar crucifix from before the Second Vatican Council. And on the back, it says, what does it say? 1927. What is the other? There's a really tiny word on here. L.V. Aronson. So I should go on Antiques Roadshow and
Yeah.
have them tell me how many millions it's worth.
Yes.
Not that
Yeah.
I would accept it.
It's hardcore though. It's solid.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, like if it
That's
weren't sacred, I would
incredible.
do curls with it.
I mean, a blessed crucifix that towered over countless
Yeah.
masses with
Yeah.
thousands of people saw that crucifix.
Yeah.
Thousands.
So in 6 years, will be 100 years old, and so that priest has he has since passed on. God rest his soul. But wonderful old man, Father Chris, and he was like one of those. Like I have a great dad, but I feel like the Lord always gives us additional men in our lives who shine forth some other aspect of the goodness of the fatherhood of God. And Father Chris was that for me. So not to take anything away from my own dad, but Father Chris just did something else to help me understand the Father's love.
Amen to that. Amen to that. There's a guy that I follow. His name is Joseph Chambra, and he's a Catholic speaker, and he has a podcast, but he's currently doing a series on that exact topic, just unpacking fatherhood based on his own life and his own brokenness and his own experience. It's really cool. I think you're right. For me, there was it was a priest in college, the chaplain of our campus ministry that just was that for me. And I followed him everywhere. I was just like, whatever you teach me, I'm gonna eat it up because like I can tell you're the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's.
And
Oh, good.
I was gonna say, I mean, they're doing what Jesus did. They spent time with people, and they don't have to do that. You know, they could just sit around and read the newspaper and play golf, but they
And
decide
some
like,
do.
no.
And some do, some that we have known.
Yeah, for sure. So, what were you gonna
They
say,
need
Nick?
your book.
Yeah, no,
Freaking A.
just that idea about there's an insecure, like even having to qualify, like not to take anything away from my dad, but this guy brought something other. I think that's probably something lacking we have in our viewpoint of masculinity and fatherhood and the roles that everybody's supposed to play. Just that idea that, like, I think we're all necessary for each other, and if God at any, we keep coming back. My wife and I have been reading Father Chisak's book, He Leadeth Me, over and over again. And in the evenings, I was reading it tonight, and we keep coming back to the fact that there's a couple of moments where he's in his cell, when God just overwhelms him with the idea that he's sending this day to Chisak. Chisak had said, like, God's will isn't out there somewhere. Now is his will, this right here, this moment, like whether he was in solitary or being interrogated or in the labor camps, this is God's will. And so if God brings a man into your life who's a priest, who you might have a great dad, you might have a sucky dad, it doesn't matter. If God brings another one in, it doesn't negate another person by God bringing him in. It just accentuates. It's just that much fuller of a family or the body of Christ. And like, same here, like I didn't have great relationship with my dad growing up, but as we've talked on the show, like my grandpa was my father. He's just like the standing father figure. But then again, I had people all through college, and then I met Father Mike, and he brought us into the church, and he became that, and then became the friend, but he's still the father. And like, I think none of them have to negate each other. They can just all be like, no, this is who God has in my life at this moment, and they're doing something that so and so can't. Like, and Kevin has enriched my life infinitely, and it doesn't negate anyone else in my life. It just adds to it. So yeah, I think that's a great point you're talking about.
I think that's
the,
huge.
the body of Christ is amazing.
It is. And actually, I have a question for the both of you, and maybe Dan, you go first, and Nick, you can add on to it, because I see this often, from non-Catholics. You'll find a video of a solid priest is giving a great talk or doing something awesome on YouTube, and when you go through the comment section, the number one critique I see from non-Catholics, it seems, is call no one on earth your father, for you have but one Father in heaven. And it's like they didn't even hear what he said. That's the only thing they can see. So Dan, as someone who is an evangelist, how would you unpack that scripture in light of the fathers that you have looked up to and the priest fathers that you have in your life? And then Nick, you could add on to it maybe.
Yeah. So I would ask, like, what do we think Jesus is really saying here? Like, if he's cautioning us against some sin, what is that sin that he's cautioning us against? And it's idolatry. It's the concern that we would look to something or someone else as our God rather than the one God of all of us. And that's so. All right, now we understand what the sin is. Now we understand what the problem is, and then it's not hard to look in Scripture and see where other people are called fathers. I mean, Abraham is called the father of all, and so I think it's one of those clear instances where it's not an injunction against calling any human being father. Because, like, if we were to take that literally, it would mean I am not allowed to call my biological father my father.
Right.
Otherwise, I would be like going contrary to what Jesus wants. And I have never met a single human being who has ever thought that that's what that passage meant. Right. That said, your biological father is not your father, or you are not allowed to call him your father. And why? Well, it's because we recognize the reality of that relationship, and that's not going contrary to what Jesus said. And so, by analogy, we look for people who have stepped in and played that role of father. And it's not, I mean, Joseph was a legitimate father of Jesus because of the role he played. And it's no like it's not controversial. It's not slighting anyone or anything to say Joseph stepped in and played that role. And to the extent that men step in and play that role, to the extent that women step in and play that the mother role, they're authentically mother and authentically father.
Yeah, I think with this being the year of St. Joseph, there's been so much focus on that, and just a couple of things. Father Calloway has the consecration and whatnot, and reading through that, just certain things that hit me. Just the fact that like when Jesus is talking to his disciples about the love of the Father, and his physical point of reference is Joseph. Like, not that he didn't know. I mean, he was obviously, when he was 12 years old, he was in his father's house and whatnot. But like when it came to the day-to-day, like learning of the faith, learning of the Torah and stuff, that was going to come from Joseph. Like, this was the dude who was teaching him. Even the fact that like learning to carry heavy things on his back from his dad, like when he's, in the Passion of the Christ, we have this time of Jesus, he sees his mom, and there's all those moments in the movie where he's seeing his mom and whatnot and thinking back. But even being able to carry that weight was from Joseph, was from this this earthly like representation of that, and in no way could have even possibly taken away from God the Father. But when his disciples are like, hey, how do we pray? He's like, well, pray our Father who art in heaven. Like that idea of the fact that like his father on earth was passed away at that point. And he was like, there's so many levels to the idea of him. Anytime he mentions father, he's talking about both. Like he would have known the love of God and the word of God from his father, and that couldn't have taken away from God the Father's influence, because he was one with the Father and he was God, and, born of the Father before all ages. At the same time, when it was lived out as a man, this is where he learned it from, was this guy that we don't have one spoken word from. So yeah, it's cool that you brought up Joseph, because yeah, it's just, this is his year to shine.
It is. It certainly stands in stark contrast with the idea that, currently it seems like fathers are disposable or interchangeable or negatable, that the fathers really don't matter. Dads really don't matter. And I think that's been for some time now. I don't think that's just an immediate thing. That's been going on.
Like Homer Simpson, like way back then, like I know there's been endless talk of like the portrayal of Homer Simpson as like, oh, that's the dad. Like yeah, maybe he loved his kids, but he was a moron. He was a horrible dad. Like but it had to have started before that. But just, I mean, that's a really shining example of 30 years ago. That was the portrayal of what the dad was like. So yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, that's making me think kind of deeply, like, and kind of go back and explore almost in like that library card catalog of TV shows in my mind of like when have we seen a good father? There's not a whole lot of them. I mean, Pa from Little House on the Prairie, he was a pretty good dad. And
I still have a crush on Ma
Michael
to this day.
Me too.
Oh,
holy
man.
cow. We just had this conversation with my kids and my wife the other day. I'm like, man, I tell you, I watched that show. I loved Michael Landon, but I loved Ma. So Caroline.
There you go. Yeah. But other than Pa, man, go to Michael Landon. Like, I think we're missing some good dads. And
well, and it's so funny. Oh, go ahead. You go first.
Go ahead. It was a tangent. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
So
I'm trying to think of when is the last depiction of a good father in TV that I can even remember. And for some reason, the only father I can remember, the only good father I can remember, is George Bailey's father from It's a Wonderful Life, because it's so epic.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think more modern than that. They're there. It's just not coming to mind.
They're there. They're just not focused on. And well, anyway, so Dan, you go. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so Hawkeye, actually, in Avengers. I was telling somebody, a friend of mine, was like, Hawkeye's kind of boring. Like, I don't even know why he's an Avenger. All he does is just shoot a bow. And a friend of mine said he's the only normal person. He has a family. He's a dad who, like, he loves his wife and his kids. And that's part of what makes the tragedy of for him, the blip so hard, is that he loses that great treasure of a family, and nobody else really loses that. And you could of course say like Tony Stark, but he's so like narcissistic and he's egotistical that he doesn't really count, although he steps up when it matters.
He has an arc, but he's not Hawkeye. Yeah,
right.
No, yeah, that's crazy. What were we gonna say? Oh no, I was gonna say this. And total, I'm a DC Comics guy. I'm 100%
Oh, okay.
Superman, do or die. I love Marvel. Their movies are amazing. But when it comes to like lifelong, Superman got me through my childhood type thing. But
Yep.
recently, the Snyder Cut came out of the Justice League, and it's funny because I don't know if people know this. This is just stupid geeking out, but Justice League came out a few years ago, and it was like 2 hours long, right around there. The studios wanted to keep it under two hours long. Zack Snyder had done Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, 300, all those things, and he was working on it, and he kind of had his vision of it. And whether or not you liked his vision of it, he had pretty much done a movie. His daughter committed suicide. It was really tragic, and he was let go from the film. And they brought Joss Whedon in, who did the Avengers and whatnot, a few of those films. And they had him come in, and the movie itself was kind of a shambles because it obviously had two directors or whatever. But there was more lighthearted humor like the Avengers, and it was just kind of a flub of a movie. It was fine, and people let it go. But then fans started doing this hashtag Snyder Cut or whatever, and like it grew into the hundreds of thousands. And so then HBO Max released it. They released the 4-hour Snyder Cut. And so I don't have HBO Max. I should say I have it for a free trial of a month because I wanted to see the Snyder Cut really bad, and I want to purchase it when it's available. And we watched it. A way better film. It's actually a really good film. I'm really impressed. I loved it. You get 4 hours. I would watch any 4-hour movies. Should be the next thing. They're just
It
awesome.
should become normal for anything that's good.
Anything that's good. You can do so much character development. You have so much time. So anyway, at the end of it, I realized like again, in our culture especially, but like at the end of the movie, to draw everything up in one of the almost the last remaining scene, everybody gets a moment where they are in some way or another linked to their father, guided by their father, brought into good relationship with their father. Their father is proud of them. Like it's every character gets it's like almost a rapid fire. Like Snyder had an agenda, and I have no clue if he had some father wound agenda, but it was really like sitting there watching it. I'm like, holy cow. Like, okay, one of them, like, okay, one, that's great. For me, it was because in Man of Steel, Superman's dad's kind of, especially Kevin Costner, Jonathan Kent, just didn't give really good advice in the movie. It was poorly done. It could have been better. I get what they were getting at. But in Snyder Cut, in this pivotal moment, he's getting audio guidance from both of his fathers in what kind of man to be. And I was just like wetting my pants, and like, but then that wasn't enough because then every character gets this moment, and it was so specifically like getting father guidance. I was like, man, it has to be on purpose. But I think there's been a bit of a shift in people like realizing like, yeah, I mean, dads have been idiots. Dads ruin the world. Men ruin the world in a lot of ways. I mean, that's all the way back to Eden when Adam didn't step up. But in the same sense, like I think there's a craving for that, for there to be the dads that they're not perfect, but just the dads that they should be. There seemed to be a reaching out for that. Yeah. Have either of you seen that Snyder Cut?
I have not. You're convincing me that it's worth the free month, or whatever the month trial of HBO Max.
It's definitely worth it. It's definitely.
I may have already wasted that on Wonder Woman.
Yeah, so did we. So that was months ago, and then we canceled it. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming back just for this one. But
yeah.
They let you do an extra free month, huh?
They do apparently, or so I understood it. But I don't read fine print well, so
it's probably up to like the whose email address and credit card you use.
Yeah, true. I'm not.
So as long as I use somebody else's, I'm okay.
I can give you Kevin's.
There we
you
go.
Can.
That'd be perfect. Yeah.
Dan, this episode of Old Fashioned Catholics might launch your YouTube career. You said you've never been on a YouTube show before.
I take that back. So I have to help promote the ideas that we have in the book. My co-author Justin and I, we have a podcast, and we put all of our stuff on YouTube. But really, it's just like it's a video podcast, and so it's not quite like what you guys have.
I was waiting for you to say like, well, okay, I've been on one. It was like the Tonight Show or something. Oh yeah, you should have mentioned that. Well, I should say. Oh, good.
I was gonna say someone's gonna pick you up the way that you hold that old fashioned glass.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna be like, I need this guy on my show.
Oh, I've been
This-
working on that my whole life. You know, I've always like, wait, what's the classiest way to hold a drinking glass?
Like,
Like
this.
this.
There you go. So I have this kind of fun trick. You know, now we're at this point in the night where we can do this. I have this fun trick that I do with my thumb. So I don't know
Oh,
if you can see
hey.
that.
Oh,
What?
oh.
But I can pick up my glass without my thumb. And so like I mean what this really tells us is opposable thumbs are overrated.
Oh yeah, it makes me a little sick though in my stomach to see that happen, man.
My apologies.
I
do
want
any-
to train my thumb to do that without.
And I
breaking
just aspirated my water trying to look cool. And so now I'm trying not to cough.
Go ahead, cough. We'll just mute yourself.
That's actually a phrase in our household with my kids. It's anybody chokes on anything, I go wrong pipe, and so now all my kids are like wrong pipe, Dad. Yeah,
That's
wrong
awesome.
pipe.
I thought you were
I
saying
thought you were gonna say-
aspirated.
Or mute yourself.
Mute yourself.
Yeah. Like I'm kind
Sebastian,
of tired of
mute
hearing
yourself.
you. Can you mute yourself?
That's
That-
gosh.
That should be the phrase.
That should be
Mute yourself.
possible. We should be able to mute our
Yeah.
kids. Holy cow. That'd be
Yep.
amazing.
Have you guys ever wanted to bring back a retro phrase from your childhood?
Yeah.
Like my older brother used to always say to all of us, stifle. Like when he wanted us to be quiet, you say stifle. And I've
Stifle.
always wanted to bring back psych. Psych.
Yes. Psych.
That was pretty good. I'm trying to think. I know I've had these thoughts before. I don't know if what's up counts.
That counts. That was
yeah.
a
Okay.
huge thing.
Yeah, no, that was. That one was pretty good. I did not. I think Dilly Dilly was short lived.
It was.
I
Too
would have been
short.
okay. Yeah, that could have been longer. We could have got a little bit more mileage out of that.
I feel like it hit at the wrong time because I loved it every time.
Yeah, it was perfect. You know, like somebody, like you're hanging out with your friends and somebody says somebody you don't like, it's just like, oh, shut up, Dilly Dilly.
I wanted to bring back, and this is, I don't know, how old are you, Dan?
I'm 35.
35. Okay. Well, shit, we're all about the same age. I'm 43, but I would want to bring back No Doy. And that was from like early 80s. No Doy. I have a friend, Ashley Boyles. She's probably listening. She says that still. And I'm always a little jealous because she knows how to say it. She's not purposely working it in. She just says it like, yeah, No Doy. And I think I would want to bring that
Ooh,
one
that's
back.
slick.
I know.
I
That's
like
slick.
vaguely remember that. How did that one come up? Is that like a morph of No Duh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah.
it was.
Wow.
Because then there
No
was
Doy
just
wasn't
like,
cool enough.
Doy, but Doy sounds stupid, but No Doy sounds good somehow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that's what I would bring back.
That could almost be like a TLC song.
Oh, it probably is like on the B
Yeah.
side or something.
Yeah.
It's one of their didn't do as
It's-
well.
Yeah. Did CDs have B-sides?
I don't know.
But tapes did.
Tapes.
So I
did.
remember, I'm old enough to remember tapes. I remember like having to flip a tape to hear the rest of the songs. And I mean, really, like I just remember rewinding to hear the song I wanted to hear. I think
Yep.
probably from my like my 8-year-old birthday, I got, I want to say, I'm trying to remember the name. I think it was like Joe. No, it wasn't Joe Diffie. It was like Billy Lee or Billy Williams, and it was I Miss Billy the Kid. You guys
yeah.
remember that song?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And I must have listened to that song 100 times. I remember sitting on my parents' waterbed because they were the ones with the tape cassette player, and I'd play it and then rewind it,
Toby Keith.
and then Toby. Was him?
Yeah, that's what
Man.
that's what Google Oracle says.
Okay, gotcha.
Wow.
So,
Mine was a Weird Al tape. I had a Weird Al tape,
man,
and I played his song "Fat" just over. I just rewound and rewound and rewound. I would sit on my floor in my bedroom because there was no chair, and I would just play it.
I had an 8-track player that do you guys know what an 8-track is?
yeah,
I know what it
Okay.
is. I don't know if I've ever seen one.
I
yeah.
had an 8-track player with a Beach Boys album, and then I had Elvis Presley, Shake a Hand, and I was obsessed. I played that over and over and over. Yeah, that was me.
Oh man,
I remember records. Like I
Yeah.
remember listening to the soundtrack to Disney movies on records.
That's awesome.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah,
And now they're
I-
cool again.
They are.
they
Like
are.
you could probably start collecting them again.
I didn't have any records until 2017. I think it was. Yeah, 2017, because Radiohead came out with their OK Computer 30 year or whatever it was. 20 year? It's probably 20 year. And they put out a vinyl. And so I purposely bought a record player from a garage sale and bought speakers from a garage sale so that I could buy that triple record from them.
Was it worth it?
Nope, not at all. Because it sounds better on my iPhone with my earbuds. So
But everybody says it sounds better on vinyl.
I know they do. It does. But so my record player wouldn't play at the right speed.
So that's
So it was not. I know all the songs. They formed me. Like I know the song backwards and the album backwards and forwards. I know it better than I know any other album. And so then listening to it like sped up, I can't do it. So I just don't do it. I have the albums.
So it's clear Radiohead's got to be like your favorite band.
They are among. Yeah, they are. Yeah,
Okay.
they are up there, tied.
So who else is up there for you guys?
21 Pilots, right, Nick?
No, they're up there. I love them. I'm impressed by them. Not their latest stuff. But Kevin, what's your top couple bands?
Some of my favorite bands. Nickel Creek.
Yeah,
One of my favorite all
Not
time.
Nickelback, Nickel Creek.
Nickel Creek.
Okay, you got to be
One of my-
really careful.
Oh yeah, no, we all
Yeah.
lived through the Nickelback era.
Yeah. And then after that, I don't really have a favorite. They're
Okay.
just the only one that comes to mind. Yeah.
Oh, what about you, Dan?
So huge fans of Mumford and Sons, and I will say I was on the bandwagon before there was a bandwagon.
Oh, nice.
And then
I'll take your word for it.
yeah, and Passenger. You
Oh, yeah.
familiar with him?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
So
not. Nope.
Like almost all his songs are sad, and so I wonder like if there's something wrong with me that I really like sad music.
Sure.
But and then there's like I think it's a G.K. Chesterton quote about the Irish, like the Irish are the people that God made mad, for all their wars are happy and all their songs are sad.
Nice.
And so there must be a bit of that
awesome.
that blood in me. And then George Strait is a country legend. So.
Yeah.
How about you, Nick?
Oh, that's tough. So Radiohead's up there. I mean, for a long time, it was Dave Matthews Band because I was a drummer, and their drummer Carter Beauford is just brilliant, genius. He's perfectly ambidextrous in all four limbs, and so he can do things. He can just do things that make you giddy when you hear them. He just, but not so much them in recent years. Radiohead has stayed enduring. I just think I would love to do a whole series on the theology of Radiohead. I don't have time. But then I think the other one is there's just one. I like a lot of the music by Need to Breathe, but there's one song by them that still like tops the list that makes, if people say, what's your favorite song? It's just tied between a Radiohead song and then a Need to Breathe song. So they're up there. But I guess as a band, yeah, Radiohead has stayed at the top.
What's the Need to Breathe song?
Nothing Left to Lose. I quote it in
Okay.
so many of my talks. He's just talking about like when you get to the point where you have nothing left to lose, then no one can put out your fire. You just have nothing that the world can touch. And the first line of the second verse has been always, it's so funny. When we run marathons, it's the perfect running pace. If I have it in my ears, if that song's playing, I don't ever get tired. I can run 26 miles, no problem.
Wow.
So that song, but the first line of the second verse it says, love is just like a war you can't win. You can give, you can give, you can give. And like, I think that song is better than any Radiohead lyric. Just that line, because of theology of the body and the idea of gift, and that love is not, it's just, you can't win that war, but you just give and give and give. And that's it. And so, yeah, that one definitely, but they don't ever play it. And I think at my funeral, I would love for them to be there. Not that I plan on dying soon, but I'd love them to play it live once in their lives. But yeah, but Radiohead still, we don't have time to go into the Radiohead. So,
Mr. Boyd, do you have a toast for us this evening, sir?
You bet I do. So,
I like that.
gentlemen, May the Lord grant you and your wives and your children a long life full of a deep love of Him and of neighbor, that all of your interactions may be graced with His presence, and that you may see in one another the love of God waiting to be poured out upon you in the sacraments, in our community, in all of creation, which God has created, just so that we might know His goodness. And let us always praise the goodness of God, from whom all blessings flow. And we ask this in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.